almost exactly 8 years ago, on March 19th of 2018, when I was still faithfully blogging away on my website, I published a piece called Quit Something. And it was a companion piece to an article that I published the week before called Create Something. And they seemed, on the surface, diametric oppositions, but in reality, I treat them as two halves of the same coin, and that coin being this idea of spending your precious time the way you actually want to spend it. Now, there are two different approaches to that. There's probably more than two, but for our purposes today, two approaches to that. There is dedicating yourself to pursuing the things you want to pursue. There's also stopping doing the things you don't want to do. Now, I've been talking a lot lately about spending your time the way you want to, because it's top of mind for me right now as I am advancing in age and as I am contemplating what the next chapter of my life looks like. I've been talking a lot about what are you doing with your time, and are you spending it the way you want to? And that's actually annoyed quite a few people. It's annoyed at least a few people, and you know who you are, and do with all of that what you will, or don't do with it anything at all if you don't want to. It's all just information. I've been talking a lot about going out there and doing the things you want to do, but part of that, the other side of that coin again, is quitting the things that you don't want to do. And I think quitting gets a bad rap. I think quitting can be an essential ingredient to freeing up the time and the energy and the space to actually go after the things you want to do. And so I'm going to attempt to wax semi-eloquent about it after we do the thing. I think back in 18, what I had just quit, which was the inspiration for that piece, was my publicity agency. At a certain point back in those days, I opened up a little tiny boutique music publicity agency. It was called Power Trio Media. It was an interesting convergence and evolution of my experience and my skills in my regular working life, which is in public relations, and my private creative life, which was music. I had, in 2014, started a music blog, The London Groove Machine, which was covering the local music scene. And that was really interesting because it introduced me to so many people in my local scene, including the likes of Carly Thomas, who became somebody I've played with for 10 years. And continue to play with. And it introduced me to Ken the Zen and to Sarah Smith and to a wide variety of people who became not only the people with whom I play music, but some of my very best friends. I say good things happen when you put yourself out there. The London Groove Machine blog that I ran 2014 to 2017 is a wonderful example of these amazing things that can happen if you just follow a little impulse. At the time, I recognized a gap in the market. There was a radio show, local campus radio, that was covering the music scene, and then nothing else really. And so I'm like, well, I'll do it. I'm a writer. I'm a communicator. I have a PR background. I'm in the music scene. And so I started interviewing local bands, promoting shows, and eventually started interviewing touring acts. So if your band was coming to L-Town, I reached out to you, or I reached out to your publicist, try and hook something up to promote your show. And so I interviewed, for example, Gordie Johnson of Big Sugar. I interviewed Jen Grant. I interviewed Sarah McDougall, who is now a very dear friend of mine. Catherine Calder of the New Pornographers twice. A long list of folks who are coming through town. Tom Kiefer of Cinderella, which was a highlight of my frigging life. And then Jeff LaBar of Cinderella. And then I advanced to, I've got this little platform, and a little platform opens doors that you have no idea it would open. And then I'm interviewing Doug Pinnick of King's X. the frontman of my favorite band in the frigging world, and a long list of other folks. And what happened along the way is that once my blog started circulating, and I got a little bit of free publicity out of a minor controversy because I interviewed Morgan Lander of Kitty, and at the time Kitty was on hiatus, and Morgan was just breaking down the realities of trying to tour, talking about how expensive it is, how difficult it is for a band like Kitty to maintain on the road. And that was pre-COVID, before everything went crazy with expenses, etc. And I think it was Blabbermouth maybe picked that up, stole that part of the interview and posted it to their massive audience. And that directed a little bit of attention back to me, and that's interesting. And then the blog began to circulate a little bit because I was interviewing folks from out beyond our city, and it was beginning to get noticed. And then all of a sudden I'm getting pitches, right? I'm getting pitches from publicists out there. I'm getting pitches from bands. I'm getting pitches from managers. And my inbox was becoming flooded with pitches to feature this band, review this album, interview this artist, which is all well and good. But I'm looking at it like, well, I can do that. I've been a media professional for years. I know how to pitch a story. I know how to do this probably better than some of the people who are pitching at me because I'm on the other end of it and I'm recognizing what resonates and what doesn't. Word to the wise, free publicity advice. Don't pitch a blog or a playlister or a music publication and have your lead line be, "Hey there," or "What's up?" Find out who you're pitching, find that person's frigging name and use it, okay? Because if something came into me that said, "Hey, what's up? Read your blog." No, you didn't. That's the same heading you're putting on every frigging forum email that you're sending out. And as soon as I would see that, I would immediately delete. If you're not going to take the time to actually find out what my friggin' name is and address me as a professional, you're out. That's another secret for you. I was inundated. I had a tiny little music blog. I was inundated with pitches from people. Imagine what the bigger blogs are receiving in terms of pitches. Hundreds, maybe thousands a week. They're looking for reasons to ignore your pitch, kids. So come correct. Come at it professionally and do it professionally. I had one pitch that was like 2 lines long. It was like, "We're the sickest band ever. Check out our stuff." Literally, that's what it said. Thank you, no. Next. And so I watched all this happen, and I'm like, I can do this way better. I can do this way better than a lot of the people who are getting paid to do it right now at me. So I thought at the time, I'm trying to find my way. I'm a freelance writer. I'm a working musician. I'm struggling. Maybe the key, maybe the thing is to open a PR agency and do that for people. And so I did that. I launched Power Trio Media. And I put some money into the website, and I put some money into the business cards, and I put some money into this and that, and we launched this boutique agency, and I got to work with some really swell local artists. I did PR for Denny Goche. I did it for Sarah. That's how I really began working with Sarah. Those of you who have been following along for years know that I eventually became the touring drummer for Sarah Smith, and so we toured all across Canada. We toured in the States. We did 4 tours in Europe. A hugely consequential person in my life, Sarah. Well, I got to know Sarah fundamentally by being her publicist for the better part of a year before I ever played drums for her, right? Good things happen when you put yourself out there. So working with Sarah, working with the Marrieds, working with the Tracks, working with Pat Maloney. I was working with a lot of people in the local scene, trying to get them playlisted, trying to get them interviewed, trying to, if they were touring, get their tour dates covered, doing all the publicity stuff, and learned a lot, had some success, eventually realized I just wasn't making any money. I've never been good at that part of any business, that part where I charge what I'm worth, but I have this real sense of obligation to people. If I'm taking their money, I really want to deliver, and I was delivering some, but not delivering what I felt was enough. And it's really difficult to do with an indie act. Really difficult to do with an indie act because people tend in the press to not know who you are. You've really got to sell. They've got 8 million pitches coming in from label bands whose names they probably recognize. And when they place those names on their website, we'll get a lot more hits because other people know that name too. Or those bands have a following and a fan base that can be appealed to. A lot of my acts were indies, smaller profile, tougher sell. And a lot of them weren't touring. That's the other side of it, right? You can push out a new release to the music press, and that's great. And you may get some reviews or whatever. And that's kind of where it ends for a publicist. But if your band is touring, all of a sudden you've got 25, 30, 40 markets you can go to. I'm not pushing at the music press anymore. I'm pushing at local press. At least 10 years ago, local press used to exist. I'm not all that sure it does anymore. But back in the day, if there was two sides to this, right? We're pushing a music release and or we're pushing a tour. And pushing a tour gives you a lot more opportunity to generate publicity, to generate headlines, to generate stories. I'm working with indies. A lot of them aren't touring because they're indies. It's expensive to do. They don't have labels helping, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And none of that matters. What matters is that I came after a while to this conclusion that I was working hard for my artists, but I wasn't always pulling in as much coverage as I thought their money was worth. And so I felt bad charging them. And then I felt frustrated about making the pitches, following up on the pitches, doing things very professionally, doing things the right way, but still not really pulling the results. And at a certain point, I'm like, this isn't A, making me money. B, this isn't making me happy. This is not fulfilling me. It's just bringing me down. It's just stressing me out. It's just I'm putting all of this time and energy into not getting results and not getting paid. And that was really deflating. You know, one of my dreams has always been to do my own thing, to get paid to do my own damn thing. And I've tried a lot of different ways to do that, from being a freelance writer to being a working touring drummer, to doing the blog. I've had several blogs, to doing the Power Trio Media, the publicity company, to doing this podcast. Banging my head against a wall, trying so hard to find a niche, to thrive in it, to get paid in it, and to be fulfilled by it. And I was really disappointed. I was frustrated and disappointed with Power Trio Media that it seemed as though this should work, and it just wasn't. And ultimately, it was bringing me down. Now, there are confidence issues that go with that. You know, I wasn't pitching my services to bigger bands because I didn't feel that I could deliver for them. Now, that's my own cross to bear. That's my own stuff to be worked out. That's my own crucible to work through. But it came to a point where I thought, this is not making me happy. This is not making me money. This is not working. And they tell you don't quit. Don't quit. Quitters never win. And I'm calling BS on that. Sometimes exactly what you need to do is quit. You need to quit doing the things that just don't work. And you know deep down inside the stuff that doesn't work, the stuff that isn't working, that stuff that maybe at one point in your life you were really eager and excited about. And then you realize one day, this just feels like a chore, man. This just feels like an obligation. This feels like a thing that I'm doing because I feel as though I have to do it, or a thing that I'm doing because I can't let go of it. And then you have to examine, why can't you? Sometimes you can't let go of a thing because you're actually making money at it, if that's the goal. You can't let go of a business, or you can't let go of whatever, even a job, because, well, actually it's paying me really well and I need that. And so golden handcuffs, right? You become trapped by the success. Sometimes you can't let it go because of ego. This is something that I wrestle with all the time with stuff. It's like, well, this music blog that I'm running is just taking way too much of my time and not really getting anywhere. But people think I'm cool because I have it. My ego likes that. My ego likes feeling relevant and important and special because I have this music blog. Or I'm a full-time working drummer, which sounds great on paper, and then you don't say the part where you're broke. Right? Can't let go of that because look at how special it makes me. Or even a publicity agency, and I wrestled with that too. And sometimes you're afraid to let go because you recognize that it should work. There is some potential in this whereby it should work. And so you feel like, well, I'll just hold on a little while longer, see if it turns around. But by that point, the impetus is already gone. Whatever passion is a loaded word for me. Whatever impetus you had for it has been stamped out and you know it. You know you're going through the motions. You know you're hanging by a thread. And it's done. But you've become so reluctant to let something go for all of these reasons. Maybe it's successful. Maybe your ego is getting a boost from it. Maybe you just can't quite let go of the potential that you think it had. Maybe you're just afraid of the vacuum that follows. People fear silence, man. People fear a blank page. Some people are excited and inspired by a blank page. Others are terrified of it. It's like, I'm going to hang on to this thing I'm doing that isn't working and doesn't fulfill me because I'm terrified of not having anything. I wrestle with that all the time too. I wrestle with that. I wrestle with all of this, and I guess I might as well confess in the context of this podcast, because I find myself week in and week out just struggling to do it, struggling to find anything to talk about anymore, struggling to feel as though it's worth it, because it tends to go out week after week to almost no response whatsoever. And every week I find myself having mental distress. I find myself week after week not being inspired and excited and really eager to get to the microphone and do this week's episode. More and more I find myself just struggling and a little bit depressed because it's not flowing now and it's not growing now. And you sit down and you ask yourself, why do I do this? And should I continue doing this? And if we're going full vulnerability here, repeat word for keyword density, I don't know. I don't know whether I should continue doing this show or not, because I don't know if it's doing anything for me anymore. And I don't know if it's doing anything for you, apart from pissing you off. Those of you who don't want to be told that time is wasting and life is short and maybe you should get on with living how you want to live. Some people don't want to confront that, and I understand that's a certain amount of pressure. Okay. Sometimes being pissed off is good, by the way. Sometimes having your tree shaken is what it takes to move you out of your slumber. Sometimes that's what it takes to wake you up and push you forward into what it is you know you want. Again, I can't answer that for anybody. I can only look at myself and my own situation. 8 years ago, I had this little business that should have worked and didn't and wasn't making me happy. And so I made the difficult decision to quit it. Now, at the time, I had music. I was still touring. That was growing. Like, music seemed to be happening for a minute. 2018, 2019, I was not making a living, but I could, at least from where I was standing, sitting technically on stage as the drummer, I could see how it was possible. I could see how things could grow. I could see how opportunities might come. I could see how there was potential in still making it as a musician. And so I thought at the time, and I even did another blog post to this effect, which was, let's go all in. Let's go all in on music and let's see where it can take us. And you can't go all in if you're so divided. It's good to have a diversified portfolio. I understand, especially as a working creative of any sort. It's useful and helpful, probably necessary to have multiple income streams, and that's fine. The agency wasn't providing me an income stream. It was just sucking away the time and energy that I might have been putting into drumming. So at the time, I let that go. I had already let the music blog go, and we're going all in on playing the drums and being a working drummer and touring, and we're going to try to make that life happen. And for a year and a half or so, it looked like maybe it was possible. And then a pandemic, and the rest is history. My music career went away, such as it was, and never came back. And I still had this podcast at least, though, so I was doing my best to beaver away at this thing and keep it going. And now I sit here thinking, do I continue? Do I continue with the podcast? Is it making me happy? That's a very good question. In some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. Is it resonating with people? I don't know if it is. To be honest, a lot of the time I don't hear a damn word about it. So it's like, maybe it isn't. I don't know. And, is it doing for me what I want it to do? I don't know. But it brings us to this point where a lot of people are afraid to quit because they fear that silence that follows. If I let go of this, if I quit this hobby, if I quit this side hustle, if I quit this job, if I quit this band, if I quit this life, what awaits on the other side? And that fear often keeps people trapped in where they don't want to be. And we've talked about this at length recently too, right? A lot of people don't change because they fear the change. How many times can I say, upon how many episodes in a row can I say people don't change until the fear of change is less than the fear of staying the same? I don't need to say that again. I'm just going to piss off what remains of my audience. But a lot of people are afraid to quit something because they fear the silence on the other side. Who am I after I quit this band? Who am I after I quit this career that has been sucking my soul for 20 damn years and I can't get out of it? But I can't do it anymore because I want to kill myself every weekend because I don't want to go in on Monday morning. That sounds like hyperbole, but it isn't. Who am I after that? Who am I after I leave this relationship? What's going to happen to me after I leave this relationship? And so you fear that being alone. I don't want to be alone. I can't afford to be alone. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to continue to exist in this dead, awful, unfulfilling relationship where I'm disrespected and treated like garbage every day. I'm going to stay with that because I fear the unknown on the other side. I fear the silence on the other side. I have talked with my therapist about this at length because that's what you go to therapy to talk about. And I talked about, especially as my music career was falling apart and the pandemic was happening and I was sitting at home, unemployed, no gigs because you couldn't. And it's interesting how two people can have different perspectives on things. Because I was looking at my future like it's a dark alley. I say to my therapist, I feel like I'm just on the edge of a dark alley and I don't want to walk in. I don't know what to do. Everything is over and I'm having anxiety and the future just feels like a black hole. And she's like, what? She's like, if it was me, I would see it as a wide open field. Wide open field of sunshine and butterflies. It's all there for you. You can do whatever you want. But I'm looking at it like it's a dark alley. Interesting, and it's all about perspective. The point I was making in my article 8 years ago, my blog post, the point I'm making now is that sometimes the very best thing you can do is quit something. Quit something that isn't serving you. Quit something that you're doing every day or every week or every month. And every time you do it, you go, why am I doing this? I don't like this. I get nothing from this. This just brings me down. And think about how much energy, how much time, how much money in some cases you are devoting to this thing that does absolutely nothing for you. And then you ask yourself the question, why am I not quitting? Why am I not letting go of this? Why am I not leaving this behind? Why am I still here? Why am I still here in this position doing this thing that I know doesn't work and doesn't make me happy? Is it because your ego just can't accept defeat? Is it because your ego gets some sort of boost or feeling of being special from it? That's a big one for me. Is it simply the fear of the unknown? Is it the fear of the silence that follows? Is it the fear of having too many options? Like, what is it that keeps you frozen in whatever it is that you know you don't want to do anymore, the life you don't want to live anymore, and yet you're still there? And you've been there for years, maybe 10 years ago, like me, you were sitting there saying, I don't want to be in this career. 10 years later, here you are, still in that career. Why? Why are you still sitting where you know you haven't wanted to be for years? There's a reason why you're still there, and it's almost 100% a fear. It's either a fear of the unknown, or it's a fear of upsetting people, or it's a fear of your ego losing the boost that comes with it, or it's a financial fear. Whatever it is, it's a fear. And it may be time to address that fear. That's up to you. I quit my publicity agency because it wasn't making me any money. I didn't feel I was delivering for my clients despite my best efforts. As a publicist, you have no guarantee. All you can do is, as professionally as possible, put in the work, send the pitches, try to get the coverage, and you can't guarantee that it will happen. Some of your clients understand that, and some of them don't. And so and this happened, like I got some good releases from people. I sent them through the channels. I did it professionally. I followed up. I tried real hard to get them covered, and they just didn't get covered. And so they come to me and say, we didn't get anything. Why should I pay you? I did the work, man. I worked really hard, and nobody went for it. That's not my fault. I did the work, but then I would feel really guilty. It's like, well, should I get paid? Yeah, I should, by the way. But I get it from their perspective. Why have I put all this money into no result? That's a fair question for anything. Why am I putting so much effort? Why am I putting so much time? Why am I putting so much energy into no result? That's me looking at the podcast right now. Maybe that's you looking at your job or your band or whatever it is that you're doing that you know you don't want to do anymore, and yet you're still friggin' doing it for some reason for no result. Interesting, right? It's all fear. So much of it comes down to fear. And by the way, when you hire a publicist, you are hiring that publicist's contacts book, okay? You are hiring the people that publicist has direct access to, right? So some people you can contact, and their access is to Rolling Stone magazine because they have a contact there with whom they are on a very comfortable first name basis who can pitch you direct. And you're going to pay that person thousands to get into a publication like Rolling Stone. I also began to develop first name contacts with people in the music press. They were not Rolling Stone, and so you were paying me perhaps hundreds instead of thousands, and I was going to starve to death. Not the point. My point is, if your eyes pop at a publicist's quote, take a damn good look at where that publicist has been able to place people, because that is what you are paying for. You are paying for the address book, okay? That's just an aside in defense of publicists. What's my point? My point is, sometimes the way forward is to quit something. I'm always harping on these days about doing the things you want to do, about how time is going by, about how you don't have as much time left as you think to have those experiences, to try those things that you really want to experience and try in your life. That's one side of it. The other side of it is you only have so much time left to not be doing the stuff that you don't want to be doing. You only have so much time left to quit some of those things too, man. It's like, it's time to get friggin' serious, especially those of you who are my age. What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you living? And why are you living that way? And do you want to be? Is it working for you? And if you want to change it, figure out why on earth you're not changing it. What is the fear? What do you have to let go of? What do you have to quit that is not bringing anything positive into your life? That can be a band, that can be a job, that can be a relationship, that can be a hobby. I quit playing golf because golf stopped bringing anything into my life except a lot of anger and a hell of a lot of money in green fees. Stopped playing golf. Quit it. Wasn't adding anything positive to my life anymore. Took up pickleball. Opposite effect, right? That's worth investing in for me. That's worth pursuing for me because it actually brings fulfilling things and people into my life. Terrific. These are trivial examples. You're talking about jobs, careers, bands, relationships, and quitting those. I understand that's a different degree of magnitude. Point is, sometimes the way forward is to actually quit something. Quit doing something. Quit living a certain way. Quit sacrificing yourself to things and people who do not provide anything positive to your life. And in so doing, you can free up the time, you can free up the energy, you can free up the mental resources to go after those things you do want. If nothing else, you can remove from your life a certain amount of toxicity, negativity, depression, anxiety, anger, feelings of depression. Those things can go away if you let go of the stuff that is causing them. And why are you hanging on? I can't answer any of this for anyone except myself. I have to contemplate it in the context of the podcast. Is it bringing positive flow into my life? Is it bringing something that I can hold on to that feels fulfilling and worth doing? Or is it just causing me stress and anxiety every week and disappointment when I put it out there and hardly anybody listens and nobody responds? Like, why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep doing that for 8 years and 250 plus episodes? And what are you getting from that? What is it doing for you at this point? You can quit it. You can change it. You know, sometimes things just require an inquiry. It's like, this situation is not fulfilling for me. I'm not sure I want to quit it, so let's investigate why it's not working or what we might do differently. I mean, I've done that along the way. Format change, name change, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In your situation, it's different. I don't know. We don't need to go into that right now. The point is, it's okay to quit. It is okay to quit what is not serving you, what is not fulfilling for you, what is draining your energy, what is draining your enthusiasm, what is draining your frigging life force. Stuff that you are doing, stuff that you are putting your time to that does not serve, fulfill, edify, educate, does not work for you. You don't have to hold on to. You don't have to stay where you are not happy. You don't have to keep doing stuff that you hate. And you know the stuff that is sucking it out of you. You don't have to keep doing that. Why are you? What are you waiting for? What is it that's going to tip it for you? I mean, I'm asking myself the same questions because I keep showing up here. Keep showing up every week panicking because I have nothing to say and then being disappointed because nothing ever happens. And so that's for me to decide, is this a net positive in my life or is this a net negative in your life? And so that's something for you to ask yourself about the stuff in your life. Is this a net positive or is this a net negative? If it's a net negative, can we flip it to a positive somehow? Are there changes we can make that will make a positive difference and therefore it becomes fulfilling? Or is this thing dead? Is this thing done and it's time to move on from that? And if you can't move on from that, ask yourself what fear needs to be addressed before you can do so. And then you can look at, okay, I'm freeing up this time, energy, money possibly. How can I direct this into what interests, inspires, intrigues me now? And if you fear the blank page, if you fear the silence that follows, sometimes you just got to face that with the faith that this is the right step, and it may be uncomfortable, but it's going to lead to better, because I'm going to free up this space and energy to pursue what actually does fulfill me. And all of that stuff I can't answer. All that stuff is up to you. But I'm thinking about it in the context of the podcast right now and whether I continue with it or not. I don't have the answer to that, but it's what's on my mind, and it's relevant. It's relevant to everybody out there who finds themselves in circumstances whereby they are unfulfilled and unhappy and reluctant for whatever reason to change or even quit those circumstances. What I can tell you is that, in my experience, quitting the things that you know you need to quit actually winds up being a positive thing. You get those burdens off your back. You just set them down and let them go and walk more lightly into a future. And you can have faith in that. In my experience, when you let things go that don't serve you, even if it's uncomfortable and difficult for a while, you do feel lighter. You do release that pressure. The great measure of any decision is how you feel after you make the decision. Talked about this before too. When I shut down and quit the publicity agency, how did I feel? I've barely thought about it since. I have not lamented or regretted that. It's like, yeah, feels much better. When I shut down the Groove Machine blog because I just didn't have the capacity for it anymore, how did I feel? I was sad for a minute because I put 3 years of my life into it and I did some good work. But at the same time, I was like, it's quite a relief, actually. Quite a relief, actually, to not have to deal with that anymore. Uncomfortable transition? Maybe so. But in retrospect, great. Did some good work, had an interesting experience, met a lot of cool people who are still friends of mine, very consequential in my life, and it ran its course. And felt like a relief after. You know what I mean? And if you quit something and your feeling after that is distinctly regret, also worth looking at. That can be recovered. I said this on last week's episode. You can go back again. You can go back to your old pickleball paddle. You can go back to your old whatever it was with a new appreciation, with opened eyes, with a new spark. That's possible too. Sometimes you need to quit in order to realize you shouldn't have quit. Great. That's good to know because you return to the thing with new impetus, new fire, new passion, right? And then it can blossom from there. Sometimes quitting has that effect too, but pay attention to how you feel after a decision. I did it and I feel just enormous relief. I feel so much less pressure, or I feel enormous regret. Both of them are worth looking at. Say, why do I feel this? Why do I feel that? What does it tell me about me and what I want? Food for thought. And so this week, I'm saying to you, what do you need to quit? What do you need to quit? What do you need to quit doing? What do you need to quit thinking? What do you need to quit as a habit in order to free up the time, space, energy to go after what you actually do want? And if you're afraid to do so, inquire into what the fear is and what needs to be addressed there. Fear always needs to be addressed, okay? I've made a decade or more out of addressing some of my fear to great effect. And so I'm going to keep this intentionally short. Well, we're already at 40 minutes. I've demanded a lot of you recently with my episodes in terms of length. I'm going to cut this off here. What do you need to quit? Why are you not quitting? And what benefit awaits you on the other side of quitting? Food for thought this week. Folks, thank you ever so much for listening. I know I complain a lot about the podcast not growing, but I also know that I do have a small but dedicated audience, and I appreciate every one of you for being that and for supporting it. It is not lost on me. I do not take for granted the people who support this program. I thank you so much. Ratings and reviews always welcome. Apple, Spotify, etc. I think everything is working now with my switch to a new host. That was a bit of a trial. some technical issues, but I think it's working now, so everything should be running as usual. Thank you for your patience through all of that. I hope you are well. Good things really do happen when you put yourself out there, kids, so don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And also don't be afraid to pull yourself back if that's what needs to happen, all right? Trust your gut. Trust your instincts. Do the things that fulfill you. Quit the things that don't fulfill you, because life is short, folks. I want me to live it in the most satisfying and fulfilled way. If you're not, think about what you need to let go. I was about to say I'll be back next week with something, and hopefully I will, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Cheers for now.